False. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Federal prosecutors allege 21-year-old Jack Teixeira was risking U.S. national security and the lives of U.S. service members, allies, and others to impress friends online, including on chat groups on the Discord gaming platform. In the 6-count grand jury indictment charging Teixeira with willful retention and transmission of classified information, a revelation about the real-time impact of Teixeira's alleged leaking.
This was a deliberate criminal act.
The indictment explaining that Teixeira's alleged leaks included key details about the U.S. providing military support for Ukraine's fight against Russia, including how that equipment would be transferred and used. Teixeira worked as an IT specialist for the Massachusetts Air National Guard, earning a top-secret security clearance in 2021.
Today, the Justice Department arrested Jack Douglas Teixeira.
Prosecutors say Teixeira was illegally accessing and transmitting top-secret information for more than a year before his April arrest at his family's home, and that his superiors warned him at least twice to stop accessing information beyond the scope of his primary duties. And if convicted, Teixeira faces up to 60 years in prison. Teixeira's attorney and his family declined to comment on his indictment.
It's the same exact crime that the former president of the United States of America committed. It's the same section of the Espionage Act that Jack... Hello, everybody. Happy Friday, you bastards. It's $5 Friday, just a little heads up, a little warning that we're going to ask you for $5 in about 25 minutes. Okay, so anyway, this is crazy. So you have this accused Discord leaker who is only 21 years old, all of 21 years old, indicted for doing exactly the same thing that the former president of the United States of America has also been indicted for and arrested for. I love saying that. The former president of the United States has been arrested twice now. And one of the arrests was for exactly the same crime. Now, did you hear that portion of that little report there that said he's facing 60 years behind bars for his criminal behavior? Did you hear that? I got to tell you, it is so unbelievable that the president of the United States is not in custody where Mr. Teixeira is in custody. Isn't that interesting? I mean, Teixeira is now being held without bond because the crime that he is alleged to have committed is so vile and so dangerous to the national security of the United States, simply because, what he did, he posted digitally the secrets that he was, getting, that he was stealing as a result of his job as a National Guard airman. What? Yeah, it's a weird story. And Donald Trump, leaked what do we call analog leak? Is that what we're going to call it? It's an analog leak because that sounds like it's going to leave a stain. It just it looks like something that was on his white golf pants. So Donald Trump did the same damn crime, except he showed it to people the old-fashioned way. And this guy posted his stuff online. And so he's facing 60 years, and Donald Trump is at the golf course in New Jersey. What? Yeah, there's a two-tier justice system, everybody. See, this is the only reason why we point this out to you today. Because the psychos, the freedom crackers, the chaos caucus, the lunatic fringe that are obviously part of Donald Trump's criming, obviously part of Donald Trump's election interference, saying the big lie or staying quiet about the big lie or allowing for, Donald Trump to incite violence against his own country. They all went along with it. They all stayed extraordinarily mum on the crimes they knew that were being committed by the sitting president of the United States, only because they felt that the base was too scary to go up against. And they also felt that as long as he was president, nothing would happen to him. Well, he ain't president anymore, and you know he's going to go through some things. So I mean, it's just so. It's the same exact portion of the Espionage Act that Trump is accused of violating. It's just that he posted it online instead of storing it in his toilet. And why is everybody going after that chandelier? What is that? Sia and I have an issue with you. If that's your beef, is that chandelier? See, I don't have any, because, you know, I mean, Brett's been to my house. How many chandeliers do I have?
A lot of chandeliers. That's confirmed.
Like double digits in one room.
It's gorgeous. Yeah, that lowered den room is amazing.
That's a living room.
The living room.
It's a living room, but it looks like a prep school law library, I guess. You know, it's going for Beauty and the Beast is what I was doing in there. And so I have this massive 24-foot law library. It goes from, you know, I have one of those really high ceilings. And every time I would try and decorate it and I would put something large on that wall, it would just become the size of a postage stamp. It just, nothing worked. So I actually came out of pocket when I was working in New York and I was making the money. And I wasn't living there. I was living in New York and I could have people in that house building things. So I ordered, and Ori, my friend, built it, a law library. And then I had the awesome, dilemma. Yeah, this is rich people problems, you know. And back then, I had some rich people problems. Not anymore, but back then I did. And so I was like, okay, so now I have this law library. What do I do about the decor? What do I do about the rest of the room? So I don't know. It was pre-Pinterest. I had to make something up in my own head. I think I was looking at a lighting catalog of some sort. You know, the one that comes in the mail that you read in the bathroom, that one. See, this is analog porn for me, okay? The catalogs, the Pottery Barns, and the lighting catalog, all those things that, you know, still come by snail mail, as you like to call it. Yeah, there's something about having it in your hand. Guys know. There's something about having stuff in your hand, you know, when you're looking at things you really like.
What you're talking about?
Yeah,
Randy.
sure. You know, all the guys noticed the chandelier. I noticed the tissue box was like no brand tissues next to the toilet. Just so fascinating, the decor in that room. But anyway, so yeah, I selected, you know, like, I don't know, 16, 17 chandeliers, all came from China, and had them hung on the 24-foot ceiling. So I probably have 400, 500, 600, 1,000 chandeliers in my house. No, I probably have about 30, though. I don't see the problem. I don't see the issue. But this is what they're going to... No, the fact that he put classified material in a toilet with a uncovered tissue box next to the toilet with a lot of reading material in boxes, that should be the issue. So please back off of the chandelier controversy or the chandelier criticism, because I'm a fan. Not so much of the sconce, but the chandelier, yes. But anyway, Donald Trump is at a golf course today, okay? And Texera is in federal custody today. So next time they come at you with a two-tier justice system, just remember which tier is which. Jack Texera, Air National Guardsman in Cape Cod, in federal custody. Donald Trump, same crime. I'll tell you.
All things Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
We are talking here about jail time. I mean, do you think he could really face that penalty?
Yeah, I think he actually knows that jail in and of itself is probably unlikely. And to be honest with you, a lot of people get angry when I say it, especially the Trump detractors. I don't want to see Donald Trump behind bars. I do want to see him ultimately held accountable for his alleged crimes. And if that means a sentence, I believe that the right thing to do would to put him on a very significant home confinement. And I say that because, understand, Donald Trump, despite the fact that he's dumb, he still spent 4 years getting classified debriefings and the information that's in his head, he's willing to sell out for a bag of tuna or for a book of stamps to anybody that's there. And he would then pose a grave security risk to our country. And I would certainly prefer the safety of Americans to over, Donald Trump behind bars. As much as I'd like to see that, I would rather see America safe than sorry.
Oh, my God. So Michael Cohen's theory is that you can't send Donald Trump to jail because Donald Trump will sell out the national security of the United States of America for, a bag of peanuts from the canteen, from the commissary. Really? I think he'll have some credit in his commissary account, Michael. I don't think you thought this all the way through. I'm thinking Supermax, like no commissary, 23 hours of solitary, until he dies. This is not going to be Otisville, you understand. This isn't going to be, like a minimum security prison in Danville or upstate New York where they have kosher meals. This is going to be like hard time, I think. If this man is, and let's just watch Jack Texera. Let's just watch that case. Let's see what happens to him. Where are they sending him? Where's he going to wait pending trial? How long is it going to take Texera to, listen, the whole thing, why is Donald Trump released on his own recognizance right now? If you say that your theory is, and I don't disagree with Michael Cohen's theory, that Donald Trump is so vengeful and doesn't care about anything at all, including his own country's national security. I don't believe he ever cared about our national security. I think he viewed the presidency as a position of power in which he could enrich himself, a position of power where he could be the most transactional person on the planet ever, and that's what he used the presidency for. Okay, I believe that. But if you're saying that because of what is in his head, okay, and that he will defend himself at all costs, including the national security of the United States, it's all for sale. It's all up for, trading on. And what you're saying he has is in his head. Well, shouldn't he be in jail now? Instead of at Bedminster walking around with Walt Nauta getting him Diet Cokes all day? They're co-conspirators in this crime. I mean, I don't understand that logic. I don't get it. I really don't. But there are people that just think that Donald Trump is too dangerous to go to too dangerous. What do you think that means? For me, it means nothing. Okay, for me, it means absolutely nothing. There is no one too dangerous to go to jail. Think about what you're saying. You're saying that there are people that are too dangerous to be held accountable. And again, this goes to the Wall Street Journal right-wing theory of you can't prosecute Donald Trump because accountability is riskier than the crime. I'm sorry, I can't get down with you that you can do things that are so unbelievable and dangerous that there's no accountability available for you in our system of justice. I just don't buy it. I don't believe it. Oh, speaking of our system of justice, today we got a lot of conclusions to a lot of things. So while Texera is an open case, and we will wait for his trial, and I promise you that his jury will bring him in like 3 minutes, guilty on all charges because the evidence against him is massive, and he did do it, and there's no question he did it because, he actually, there are videos of him, shooting up a range in his backyard. He made slurs about Jews. He made slurs about black people. He rattles off like a dozen shots in 6 seconds, quick shot artists over there. But I mean, and now he's been charged with the espionage. Yeah, he'll go. But today we also got the conclusion of the Tree of Life. I told this to Brett before the show. I go, we got a lot of conclusions today to a lot of things. And he goes, like what? And I said, well, the Pittsburgh Tree of Life Synagogue massacre, the shooter was finally found guilty of 63 charges. 11 of them were capital crimes, meaning death penalty crimes. And Brett was like, it took that long? Like, how long? I said 2018. I mean, it's hard to believe that in America, you know why? Somebody floated this to me or on the TV. I don't know where I heard this, but it made sense to me, okay, that it takes like 3 minutes to do damage, like massive, unbelievable breakage of things, to fly into the World Trade Center, for instance, one of the most heinous, massive crimes we ever saw on the TV in real time, live, okay? It took 4 hours or something like that for all of that damage, for all of that death, for all of that destruction. 4 hours, and 20 years of war after that, because we had the wrong president, okay, who used that. But anyway, so justice is hard to come by. It takes a long time to get there. But damage and the actual result of the violence that a crime actually causes, seconds sometimes, minutes other times, and then the slog to get justice is so long. But I will say 2018 to 2023, that is a stinking long time for somebody who obviously was. And here's the thing. You know how long it took his jury to render verdicts on 65 You would think that's a lot of paperwork. Well, apparently that's all that needed to be done was the paperwork. 5 hours. 5 hours they deliberated. And I'm telling you, on that many charges, it's all paperwork at that point. It's like they must have gone into the jury rooms, taken their initial vote, like who thinks guilty, and everybody raised their hand, unanimous jury. Okay, let's get to the paperwork. What about the capital offenses, meaning the death penalty offenses? Everybody raised their hand. There were 11 of them because 11 people were killed. And they all said, yeah, no problem, no problem. So now we move into the sentencing phase because it's a death penalty, a crime. So, but the jury went 5 minutes, 5 seconds, 5 hours it took from beginning to end. And I'm telling you, it was all paperwork. And this was a federal case. Why was it federal? Because hate crimes, that's why. Hate crimes. So we got some conclusion there to a 5-year-long slog. And you know why? You know why that one really sticks with me? No, not because I'm a Jew. I am a Jew. No, because my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law literally lived across the street in Pittsburgh from the Tree of Life Synagogue on the day that this happened. They have since left. They have since moved away. 5 years later, a little bit of justice. I wonder if they feel, okay now. I doubt it. Because it takes so freaking long. So how long do you think it's going to take for, Donald Trump? I say 12.
Clear for next. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
All right, I told you I was going to ask you. Now I'm going to ask you. Can you do $5 Friday this Friday? This is your chance to join the Free Speech TV sustaining donor community, meaning you will pledge to do $5 every month to support Free Speech TV. You will make a $5 donation today and agree that you will make that $5 donation every single month. Now, if you're already doing the $5 donation, might I just suggest to you that you increase your $5 by $5 and do that every month. So your $5 might become $10, let's say. So the first 5 people every half hour that call us at 877-378-8669 or sign up at freespeech.org or text the letters FSTV to 44321 on your phone. They will get a Free Speech TV mystery box. I don't know what it is. It's a mystery. But, listen, without every member of our community, we couldn't possibly plan to be on the air going forward. We only do this once every 3 months, and we shortened it. It's just 2 weeks, and all of it to support independent media. So go ahead and dial us up at 1-877-378-8669. Visit us at freespeech.org. Or text FSTV to 44321. Thank you very much. I know you'll do it because I know you've been doing it, and I'm very grateful. All right, so here's another little piece of conclusion that we can enjoy today. See, I like when the things that we talk about and the things that, we get so irate about when they happen, and then they disappear from our minds because it's not your fault. It certainly isn't my fault. It certainly isn't the fault of people who are trying to understand what's going on in America. who see, this breathless coverage of heinous crap on the TV when it happens. Maybe even a week after it happens, but, less and less. Now you're asking us to look 5 years later at the Tree of Life, or 5 years later at Jack Texera, or 5 years later at Cesar Sayoc. Do you even remember who he was? The guy with the white van with the pipe bombs, the Trump supporter in Miami? I mean, it's so hard to keep up with all of these crazy, crazy, unhinged people that do really disgusting things to other humans based on their hatred for others or their loyalty for criminals. And so today we got some closure, I would say, at the Department of Justice. Merrick Garland was able to tell you today that they have completed the investigation into the Minnesota Police Department with regard to the death, the choking, the murder that we all watched in real time on videotape of George Floyd's death. And they concluded that not only did George Floyd not need to die, but that his constitutional rights, all of them, just about all of them, the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, just the Civil Rights Act, everything, that he should be alive, and that the Minnesota police acted in violation of the Constitution.
The Department of Justice has concluded that there is reasonable cause to believe that the Minneapolis Police Department and the City of Minneapolis engaged in a pattern or practice of conduct that violates the First and Fourth Amendments of the United States Constitution. There is also reasonable cause to believe that they engage in conduct that violates Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Safe Streets Act, and the Americans with Disabilities Act. Specifically, we found that MPD and the City of Minneapolis engages in a pattern or practice of using excessive force, unlawfully discriminating against Black and Native American people in enforcement activities, violating the rights of people engaged in protected speech, and discriminating against people with behavioral disabilities and responding to them in crisis.
Okay, so the Minneapolis, Minnesota police have shown a pattern and practice of treating people with disabilities, treating people of color, treating people who are protected under various civil rights acts, who are American citizens and protected under the United States Constitution's First Amendment and Fourth Amendment right to, not be unreasonably searched, seized, or beaten or choked out on the city streets while, imperviously looking dead to camera, like, stop me, make me. Oh, my God. So we got some sort of progress that we could celebrate on a Friday with regard to proving that there are chargeable offenses with regard to the Minneapolis police in the pattern and practice way that we like to look at to see if this is repetitive or if it was just Derek Chauvin. Well, it turns out it's not just Derek Chauvin, and it wasn't just the guy that stood there guarding, Derek Chauvin, and it wasn't just the two other cops. It's a pattern. It's the practice that has been going on, at least in the city of Minneapolis, Minnesota, when we were able to see what the practice of the Minneapolis police looked like. I mean, it's just disgusting.
On May 25th, 2020, George Floyd was killed at the hands of a law enforcement officer who was sworn to protect him. As Mr. Floyd died, other officers failed to intervene. The Justice Department has since convicted 4 former Minneapolis police officers for their roles in the death of George Floyd. As I told George Floyd's family this morning, his death has had an irrevocable impact on the Minneapolis community, on our country, and on the world. His loss is still felt deeply by those who loved and knew him and by many who did not. George Floyd should be alive today.
So it wasn't just those 4 police officers, because that's what this investigation looked into. You know, the other 4, the ones that did it, you know that they've been convicted. I mean, if you can remember that they've been convicted, then you were wondering maybe why are we now looking at the Minneapolis Police Department? Those 4 were convicted because there's a pattern and a practice of bad policing going on in a lot of our cities. A lot. Now, we're not, we were never down with the defund the police thing. Okay, that was just bullcrap. However, the right wing is very down with defunding the FBI. Why would that be? Well, we were able to tell whoever would listen to us that the police were doing like the most heinous, constitutionally prohibited acts.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show.
It is.
To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
What I was trying to say was the feds have to investigate hate crimes. Okay, so that's why we had a federal investigation. And the feds have to investigate Donald Trump, right? The feds, because he committed federal crimes. So therefore, it's going to take, a really long time to see anything, move forward. I will tell you, Aileen Cannon actually has instructed the lawyers in the Trump defense team. There's 2 of them. One is under investigation right now. Yeah, one of Trump's lawyers is under, I think, Todd Blanche. Todd Blanche is being sued by a former client. The former client is alleging that Todd Blanche forged, I have no idea, the veracity, the truthfulness of this particular lawsuit, like who's right, who's wrong. I have no way of knowing. But I will tell you that while Todd Blanche and Chris Kise, those are the 2 lawyers for Donald Trump so far, who were asked, I read the transcript of the arraignment, and they were asked, are you in this thing for the long haul? I mean, are you going to be the attorneys of record for the case, the case in chief? And they both said, yes, we're down for, the whole thing. And then the magistrate, not Judge Aileen Cannon, but the magistrate that presided over the arraignment actually then asked these 2 lawyers if they were also going to be going through the appeals process, if there is one. Are they really in for the long haul? And they both answered, yes, we're in it for the long haul. So yesterday, Aileen Cannon, who, according to various articles, has exactly 14 days of trial experience as a judge. You understand that she's never been a judge before Donald Trump made her a judge. You understand that. Now she's a federal judge in Miami. Well, actually in Fort Pierce in Florida. She has had like a felon that had a gun case. I think she had a tax fraud case. All of those cases added together, each one lasted like 4 days. All those cases that she's actually presided over, the total number of days that she's been a federal court judge in practice is 14. And now the most important case in American history, whether you feel it or you don't feel it, it doesn't matter. This is the most important case in the history of the presidency of the United States of America, in the history of the national security of the United States of America. This is the most important case, okay? The insurrection is the most disgusting case, and that one hasn't even been indicted yet, but it will in D.C. Yeah, oh, don't think Jack Smith is done. I mean, he's going for the, for the hat trick. There's no question he's going for a trifecta, and maybe even more than that. But she told the lawyers to go get security clearances. Okay, this is what her first act as the judge in the most important case in the history of the United States has been. And so some people feel, happy or okay with her now because she's acting swiftly and she gave an order or whatever. I have no idea, why she would want this case in the first place, because she has 14 days of experience being a judge, and this is the most important case in the history of the United States. Why would she really want to have anything to do with it? I have no idea why she would want to be anywhere near this. But then, when they said go get security clearances, I was like, okay, well, let's look at who these lawyers really are. And a friend of mine, on LinkedIn, how you can instant message somebody? A friend of mine on LinkedIn actually sent me a message with a link to a New York Law Journal article about Todd Blanche. Right, Bruno? And so I read it, and it was like hair-raising. Todd Blanche is being sued by two brothers. I think they're twins, twin brothers who were contractors for an investment fund. And they apparently were charged with charging their clients advisory fees that were in excess of what is allowed. And so somebody filed a complaint with the Securities and Exchange Commission about these two brothers. Okay, fine. So these two brothers go out and they hire attorneys, and the attorney that they hired was Todd Blanche. I'll just keep it short and sweet, right? Was Todd Blanche. And all of a sudden, Todd Blanche, I don't know, they didn't feel that they were getting anything from, positive from him. I don't know what their beef was with him, but they say they started getting bills like in the amount of $677,000 for billable hours for the amount of time that he had put in on their case. And they were like stunned by that because they never signed a retainer agreement with him. Then all of a sudden, a retainer agreement apparently, allegedly, was produced, and it looked like their signatures, but these two brothers say it was forged, that they never signed a retainer agreement. And so they sued Todd Blanche for forging this retainer agreement, and on top of it, these brothers who had to answer this complaint, they had their file kept by Todd Blanche's law firm so that they couldn't even defend themselves further if they didn't agree to Todd Blanche's representation, because he kept sending bills, and they paid like I think $1.6 million to his firm, and they still don't have their files because they say the law firm that Todd Blanche worked for says, oh no, they owe even more than that, and we're not giving them their legal files, and so they can't get effective counsel. I don't know. I say let the two of let them go at it. I mean, I really couldn't care less like who prevails in that. All I can tell you is, how could somebody get a security clearance with like live fraud allegations, whether they're true or not? So let them all fight it out. But it's a nice delay, isn't it? If you can't get a security clearance, isn't that a beauty? This whole case is destined for, an amazing length of time. I just don't see anything, swift about the justice in this particular. And, I'm still waiting for Donald Trump to waive his right to a speedy trial, because you know what a speedy trial is in, federal court in rocket docket situations. I know because I didn't do anything criminal, but I've been subject to a rocket docket. So a speedy trial is 70 days. That's what a speedy trial is. Now, most defendants will waive their right to a speedy trial because delay is your friend, number one, especially when you need to, get new counsel, and they have to get briefed on the whole scenario and the whole situation. They have to contact witnesses and conduct depositions. They have to get discovery. They have to see what the other side has. They have to go through all these documents. And unless you have a team of like 100 people, which I don't know, I mean, Donald Trump could afford it, but there are no takers. There is absolutely nobody that wants him as a client because he doesn't listen to his lawyers, number one. Number two, he always thinks he knows better. Number three, he did it. You know what I'm saying? And number four, he never pays. And that's why it's so interesting that Todd Blanche is a guy who says he got stiffed by these guys as client. I don't know. I mean, it's just such a strange world that these people operate in. But it'll be fascinating to see, whether or not he can get representation. I will tell you right now that he is relying on, like I said yesterday, remember Larry Klayman, that little ne'er-do-well, that little stump of a man, that little mushroom head. He used to head up this organization called Judicial Watch. Now Donald Trump is taking legal advice from Tom Fitton. I don't even know if Tom Fitton's a lawyer. Somebody can look that up. But he's taking advice from Tom Fitton. And, people are exposing the fact that Tom Fitton is nobody to take legal advice from. Tom Fitton saw all these articles yesterday about how Donald Trump is listening to the exact wrong person. I mean, this is what Michael Cohen started, right?
Donald's position is never to settle. ever, because he thinks it's a sign of weakness. Unfortunately, he didn't have anybody around him to guide him properly. He's like a petulant child that just keeps sticking their finger into an electric socket. And then you keep saying, don't do it, you don't want to do it, you don't want to do it. But nevertheless, he's going to do it anyway, because in his mind, he knows better. And then you have somebody, for example, like a Boris Epstein, who will turn around and will say to him, yeah, you're right, Donald, stick your finger into the socket. It's good, you can do it. Instead of guiding him like many of us used to in the past and say to him, no, you can't do that. All right, think about how many of these matters right now would not even exist had he listened to somebody who was providing him just a scintilla of good advice.
Yeah, just a touch, just a tad, just a scintilla, just a little tiny bit of good advice. So he's listening to Boris Epstein, who I know is not a lawyer, okay, and Tom Fitton, who are telling him he can do this. He can have these diamonds, he can keep these diamonds, he can take them home, he can, whatever he wants to do with them, they're his. They're not his. We went through the Presidential Records Act yesterday, and the custodian of these records is the United States government. And it has nothing to do with the classification. That's just an added fun element, is that they were classified. And he said out loud on tape, well, I didn't classify them, but, and so now, they're still classified, so you can't see them. But here, look.
Mary had a little lamb. The fall. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Some of Trump's lawyers that Trump could even keep the documents even as they disagreed, the advisors claimed. Tom Fitton, the president of Judicial Watch, joins me now. And sir, it's good to have you back on the show. Read that today, thought it was interesting. Wanted to get your response to that claim from the Washington Post.
Well, I mean, what these so-called Trump advisors, what are they saying? That Trump obstructed justice? And it's absurd. Obviously, that isn't the case. I don't know who's telling the Washington Post that. The fact is Trump cooperated, right? He turned those documents over in the beginning of the year, those 15 boxes, and then they harassed him further. They issued a subpoena, and he responded to the subpoena. They gave him more documents. Now, the objection is that, well, he didn't search properly or hid documents from his own lawyers. I didn't think there was any persuasive evidence of that. So Trump fully cooperated. So the whole thesis of the story that somehow he didn't turn documents over and was indicted is false, which makes me think what they're trying to do, and what I think this whole issue is about, is they're trying to undermine the issue that we have been raising publicly, which is the Clinton side fraud case was a persuasive court case that was pursued by the Justice Department and the archives that led to the conclusion that there was nothing anyone could do about a president who took records with them and designated them as personal, which Bill Clinton did.
No, he did
according
not.
to the Justice Department and archives and a federal court judge. And it was a similar situation with Trump.
So are you,
so they didn't want to be called out on that disparate treatment between Clinton and Trump.
Yeah.
So, let's start yelling about Tom Fitton as opposed to the Justice Department, who was going to indict Trump and entrap him in a wildly abusive way. It's just, if these are Trump advisors, he needs new advisors.
Okay, so that's Tom Fitton, who, no, is not a lawyer. And Tom Fitton is giving him legal advice, telling him, oh, Bill Clinton, the Sox case. Do you know what the Sox case was? I'm just going to tell it to you real quick because it's so super easy to understand. So Bill Clinton was giving interviews for to an author while he was president of the United States for a book that the author wanted to write about Bill Clinton's presidency. And so Bill Clinton was keeping the tape recordings of those interviews that he was giving to this author, to this writer, to this, person who was writing this book, which did come out. It was called The Clinton Tapes, that Bill Clinton was cooperating with, that he wanted to have written about his presidency as sort of a daily diary for Bill Clinton's presidency. And so those were personal tapes. Okay, they had nothing to do with national security. They are published. They're in a book called The Clinton Tapes. And Bill Clinton was keeping the cassette tapes. That's how long ago this was. He was keeping the cassette tapes of these interviews in his sock drawer. When it was time for him to not be president anymore after his 2 successful terms, the only balanced budget we ever had, 22 million new jobs created, that Bill Clinton. When it was time for him not to be president anymore, he took the personal belongings that he was entitled to take. And one of those personal belongings that he was entitled to take were those tapes. And people, were out. They were shocked. They were and they litigated it, right? Whether or not Bill Clinton, way after the fact. And the federal court judge that he's lying about there, that he said, and a federal court judge ruled that Bill Clinton needed to surrender that it was the exact opposite. The federal court said, those are his. It's his personal belongings. He can have those. He took them when he was president, and he actually owns those as a personal item. That's like saying you can't take your socks that were also in the drawer because you wore them when you were president. I mean, this is just so ridiculous. And that's what he's advising Donald Trump to do, to take classified documents, to take hundreds of documents. And obviously, he obstructed justice. Obviously. I mean, all right, here's his attorney general.
It started out under the Presidential Records Act and the archives trying to retrieve documents that Trump had no right to have. But it quickly became clear that what the government was really worried about were these classified and very sensitive documents. I was shocked by the degree of sensitivity of these documents and how many there were, frankly.
Wow.
And so the government's agenda was to get those, protect those documents and get them out. And I think it was perfectly appropriate to do that. It was the right thing to do. And I think the counts under the Espionage Act that he willfully retained those documents are solid counts. Now, I do think we have to wait and see what the defense says and what proves to be true. But I do think that even half what Andy McCarthy said, which is if even half of it is true, then he's toast. I mean, it's a very detailed indictment, and it's very, very damning. And this idea of presenting Trump as a victim here, a victim of a witch hunt, is ridiculous.
Yes, it's ridiculous. And that's what Tom Fitton is saying, that he was entrapped, that the president, Donald Trump was entrapped. Donald Trump cooperated. Donald Trump surrendered his... No, he didn't. And he instructed his lawyer to lie. That's why his lawyer, Evan Corcoran, you know who Evan Corcoran is. Do you know where he comes from? Do you know anything about his origin? He was Steve Bannon's attorney. Okay, so now you can think of him in the proper context. But Evan Corcoran is likely, I mean, I feel like it's 99% probable that Evan Corcoran is the source that tipped off the DOJ that Donald Trump was never, ever going to surrender these classified, top secret, compartmentalized, pieces of intelligence that came from the energy. I mean, nuclear, our nuclear stuff is controlled by the Energy Department. Remember when, Rick Perry became the Secretary of Energy and we're going, what does Rick Perry know about, nuclear weapons? Why? Okay. So, I mean, and when you look at the indictment, they tell you all the different portions of the government's security apparatus, like the CIA, the NSA, the Energy Department, etc., where these documents originated, where Donald Trump would have had to go in order to get them to sign off on declassification of their documents because they created them. These are not Donald Trump's documents. He didn't create them. Okay, the tapes that Bill Clinton had were tapes Bill Clinton created. They originated with Bill Clinton, and they had no classified material in them that needed to be, returned to the U.S. government. So, this is the kind of legal advice he's getting. And so Bill Barr there, that was last Sunday, said we'll have to wait to see what his defense is. Well, then yesterday I saw what Tom Fitton's legal defense is. Not that he's of counsel, not that he's on the record, but he is obviously, him and Boris Epshteyn, both of them non-lawyers, are the ones that are advising Donald Trump to keep putting his finger in the electric socket. Nothing will ever happen to him. He's invincible. He's bulletproof. He can get away with anything because he's Donald Trump. I swear. And so Evan Corcoran obviously decided that he was going to start tape recording or making contemporaneous notes of what was going on, because he felt pretty sure that his client was going to say he was lying about all of these boxes. He was lying about the contents. He was lying about, not cooperating with these subpoenas. He was lying when he went, because he went to Evan Corcoran. And he said to Evan Corcoran, wouldn't it be better if we said we had nothing? Bam, you start recording. Okay, that's what you do. Michael Cohen was recording Donald Trump. Everybody records Donald Trump, and Donald Trump records everybody. Because no one trusts anyone. Because they're slimy, slimy operators. And that's all you could say about them for the longest time. But now you can say that he's violated the Espionage Act. And you see what happened to Jack Teixeira today. You also saw what happened to a reality winner who took one damn document. One. And that document clearly showed that the Russians, yes, during the 2016 election cycle, hacked into and got access to American voter registration data. Okay? And that was too embarrassing for Trump. So he had her locked up. Okay? And his entire campaign against Hillary Clinton was, she mishandled classified documents, and that will never happen with me. And I, you have to take it seriously, and the national security and America first. And oh my God.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
He was totally wrong that he had the right to have those documents. Those documents are among the most sensitive secrets that the country has. They have to be in the custody of the archivist. He had no right to maintain them and retain them. And he kept them in a way at Mar-a-Lago that anyone who really cares about national security, their stomach would churn. I think the government acted responsibly. They gave him every opportunity to return those documents. They acted with restraint. They were very deferential to him, and they were very patient. They talked to him for almost a year to try to get those documents, and he jerked them around. They finally went to a subpoena, and what did he do? According to the government, he lied and obstructed that subpoena. And then they did a search, and they found a lot more documents. And they're not even, I don't think they're even sure now whether they have everything. So they acted in a very patient way, and what they were met with was, according to the government and the indictment, very egregious obstruction.
I mean, this is the Attorney General of the United States of America who covered for Donald Trump's bad behavior for as long as he could. This is an Attorney General of the United States who did not behave as Attorney General of the United States. He didn't represent you and me. He didn't represent George Floyd when George Floyd's, civil liberties and his constitutional rights were totally obliterated on videotape for the whole country to see. This is a guy who actually had Lafayette Square Park cleared of protesters in violation of their First Amendment rights so that Donald Trump could walk to a church and hold up upside down a Bible to protest Black Lives Matter protest. I mean, honestly, Bill Barr he was so focused on his mission. And his mission was simple. It was to get 3 Supreme Court justices, including getting Anthony Kennedy to resign. I mean, you talk about manipulation. You talk about, rigging the system. You talk about a deep state and operatives and people that were sent by moneyed elite donors to do bad things to our ability to self-govern. Bill Barr is like the epitome of the deep state. He is that guy. And there were tons of them. There were tons of them in the Trump administration, tons. And all of them were self-serving. That's the crazy thing. They were all answering to their donors. They were all answering to their handlers. Bill Barr was answering to Leonard Leo and the Federalist Society, the Ginny Thomases of the world, the Tea Party freaks, okay, all of, his Opus Dei friends with their very, 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 very conservative view of Catholicism being enshrined in court decisions to the point where women would have absolutely no ability to self-govern themselves. They would have no ability. They want to go after contraception. This is like their agenda. And Bill Barr knew exactly how to attract himself to Donald Trump. He knew exactly what Donald Trump wanted to hear. Donald Trump believed Jeff Sessions wasn't doing a good job for him. Jeff Sessions recused himself from the Russia investigation because Jeff Sessions was involved in the campaign, and Russia was interfering in the campaign. 37 indictments Mueller got. 37, okay? 13 people can't be, tried because they're foreign nationals. They're from Russia. One of them is this mercenary, Prigozhin. One of them is that guy. I mean, the idea that the right wing doesn't even want to know what the threats to America are, and that when they see that the threats to America are mercenaries who literally are in Ukraine killing democracy, for their own, enrichment. And when it doesn't work out for them, they turn on, Vladimir. It's such a wicked, deep state plot involving these characters that is unfolding, that unfolded, actually. It's done. But Bill Barr went there by telling Donald Trump he was right. There was no Russia interference. I mean, he used the word collusion because he understood that there was no way they could put Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump in the same room in 2015. Okay, there was no way that anybody had evidence that Donald Trump, and Vladimir Putin had spoken on the phone, texted each other, or emailed, because Donald Trump doesn't text or email. And so he knew that there was no breadcrumbs to follow, okay, that would link Donald Trump directly to the government of Russia, who is one man. The entire government. It's an authoritarian oligarchy over there, and Vladimir Putin is the mob boss. He is the autocrat. He is the guy that you have to kick back to. He's the guy you got to grease. He's the guy that you can't fall out of, favor with. And so he's the government. And Donald Trump had a lot of buffers, okay? Donald Trump ran his campaign like any mafia boss would. He had a lot of buffers, and those buffers were Michael Flynn, and those buffers were Paul Manafort. Those buffers were Roger Stone. That's why Roger Stone was never brought into the campaign proper. He was never given any title in the campaign. He was just an outsider, and he was coordinating the release of Julian Assange's WikiLeaks documents, which were given to Julian Assange by Russian hackers. Russian hackers hacked into the Democratic National Committee, and they got these documents, and they gave them to Julian Assange, and Roger Stone was coordinating the release. There were also a couple of ancillary guys who, were interviewed on Ari Melber's show, and, some of us were like a dog with a bone here because we understood what happened, and we just had the awesome job of proving it. Right. And so you had Fruman, you had Igor Fruman, you had, this whole ancillary crowd. So we, some people started, actually digging deep and finding out and getting information about them. And they were willing to talk because they were all facing, indictment. And they were facing, conviction. And they did get convicted. But anyway, it's a long ass, obvious story of a mob boss running, the mafia. And using all of his buffers, to shield him from, any testimony that would say, he told me to X. He told me to kill this guy. Or he told me to, give Vladimir this. Or he told me, Donald Trump doesn't talk like that. And that's what Michael Cohen, he was thrown under the bus too. Michael Cohen was telling you that. Michael Cohen was saying he speaks in a code. The thing is, I understand the code. So Donald Trump has never been held accountable, and he still feels like he'll never be held accountable. Still does. But the idea that there was no collusion, that's ridiculous. But Bill Barr knew that the way to ingratiate himself, the way to get into Donald Trump's, executive branch, was to tout the fact that he had been an attorney general prior, that he understood exactly what needed to be done here because he had that experience, and that he was loyal to Trump's position that there was no collusion between Donald Trump and the government of Russia, who is one guy, Vladimir Putin. Now, he was very careful with his words. There was totally interference from Russia in a million different aspects of that 2015 campaign, okay? And if anybody wanted to investigate any of these crazy people around him, like Rudy Giuliani, and what did Rudy Giuliani know was going on inside the New York field office of the FBI with regard to, it's always a laptop. In this case, it was Anthony Weiner's laptop, which had Huma Abedin using it occasionally to send emails to and from Hillary Clinton. which then allowed for the New York field office to take that computer, sit on that computer, not do any forensics on that computer, and then hand it over to James Comey 11 days before an election, forcing him to reopen an email investigation that was long closed.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
All right, everybody, it's Friday, but it's also $5 Friday. $5 Friday, you bastards. So, what does that mean? That means, could you possibly commit to giving to Free Speech TV, a not-for-profit independent media channel that takes absolutely no corporate money, no political money whatsoever? It's just supported by viewers like you. Could you commit to giving $5 a month to support independent media, Free Speech TV? Could you do that? That would be great. And if you could, please dial 877-378-8669 and pledge that $5 recurring monthly, or donate online at freespeech.org, or feel free to text FSTV to 44321, and we'll send you a secure link. And it will ask you, on that link if you'd like to make that a recurring donation. And if you say yes, that's how it will happen. And if you want to cancel at any time, feel free to say, no, I'm done. I don't want to do $5. Something happened. I can't do $5. I don't want to, whatever. You can always stop that recurring donation at a future time. Now, for the very first 5 people that will do that, we will send you a Free Speech TV mystery box. I don't know what's in it. It's a mystery. But we will send you a little thank you gift for your $5 recurring donation. If you already do $5, would you consider making it $5 more every month? Up to you, but thank you for considering. All right, Brother David in Michigan.
Oh, sister.
Yes.
$5 Friday indeed. I'm looking at the contents of my mystery box from 2 years ago.
Oh,
they're
yeah.
growing in the backyard. They're very pretty.
What did they send you? Because I really don't
Flower
know.
seeds that are in little packs, that are high biodegradable, and boom, you just throw them. I was going to throw them on the road, but then I went, no, I want these in the backyard.
Oh, okay. I have no idea what they put in those boxes. They don't tell me.
Well, that's what I got. Who knows? What a week. I was on a high from the Tonys. I stand with the WGA, and now I think all shows should not have writers. And then, just saying. And then boom, 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 3 icons in a row. My first crush after I came out, Treat Williams.
Yeah.
The greatest actor who ever became a politician, Glenda Jackson.
Yes.
And that,
oh, my God.
Right. And
I
that
loved
prophet
her. A touch of class. Come on, everybody. Come on.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Exactly.
Right.
And then that prophet of our times, Cormac McCarthy. So I'm just a little fragile.
Little blunted, yeah.
Just a bunch. And I'm still going through Succession and Barry withdrawal. So, we got to...
I know.
What are we going to do on Sunday nights?
Brother David, you're a fan of Barry?
Yeah,
Barry's
Barry was on after Succession. So.
Barry was wrapped up amazing. I'm glad you're a fan.
Game changer. Total game changer. As you know, I'm trying to...
here's the thing, okay?
You tell me, sweetheart.
Okay, this is so me, though. This is so specific to me.
Okay.
I think Bill Hader looks exactly like, or vice versa, like what's his face, the senator. Okay, and I can't get past it. So yeah, I can't get past it. I can't. So it's very hard. It's very hard.
You need some distance.
Yeah.
Yeah, Oh, now I'm not going to ever be able to watch it again because that's going to be floating in my mind. Well, at least we get another season of Somebody Somewhere.
Yeah, I saw that. The way they wrote it up, I guess, in Vanity Fair was like the little show that shouldn't but did. You know what I mean?
Oh,
I told you I picked it. Didn't I pick it?
You did pick it, and you were dead on.
Yeah.
As you know, I'm memorizing Timothy Snyder's On Tyranny.
So, okay, let me just send you...
That's okay.
No, let me send you over to an article today that's in the homework, just so that you can have it. You don't even have to go to the homework if you don't want. It's on Robert Reich's Substack, okay? It's called The 5 Elements of Fascism. And
God
it goes it pairs so well with your Timothy Snyder that it's hard not to, put them together. Go ahead.
Well, then I'll memorize that after I've gotten this one down. But here we go. It is not patriotic to take health care from families, nor to golf your way through a national epidemic in which 500,000 Americans die. It is not patriotic to try to sabotage an American election, nor to claim victory after defeat. It is not patriotic to try to end democracy. A nationalist might do all these things, but a nationalist is not a patriot. A nationalist encourages us to be our worst and then tells us that we are the best. I say open memo to the FBI, do ground sonar on the gravesite on the golf course.
Oh my God. Ivana's grave. Oh my God. All right. So let me just stick with your topic right here. So the reason why I wanted you to pair these two together is
Robert Reich.
Yes, is because Robert Reich with the Timothy Snyder actually fleshes out the difference between not just nationalists or populists as they've just decided they want to be called, but also the difference between authoritarians and fascists.
Thank you.
It's so illustrative of the problems that we have drawing the lines. I remember this week I had a call from a guy. I wasn't sure where he was going or why he started the way he did, and then he ended up in a completely different, ideology at the end of his call. But he was asking me, did I think the GOP was fascist, right? And I said, I don't know what they are. I'm not sure what they are. And so when Robert Reich wrote this piece, I guess he published it yesterday, it really I had to read it to see what his thought on it was. And he's clear. They, meaning the GOP of today, are so past nationalist and so past authoritarian. They are in clear fascist territory.
Oh, absolutely.
And I mean, he gives you so many examples of the difference between an authoritarian and a fascist. And there are fine lines, and then there are bright lines, and he draws those bright lines.
God bless Robert Reich.
And it has everything to do with what Timothy Snyder was talking about with in that particular passage.
The same thing, but he's distilled it. So, yes, I'll absolutely read it. Hey, we ain't seen nothing yet. Georgia is still to be heard from.
Yes.
And then there's the eventual, words are magic, put it out there, incitement of a crowd of your supporters to riot the Capitol and overthrow the government. It's going to be indictments for the rest of this one's natural life.
So, right. So, I mean, we're talking about a trifecta just from Jack Smith, okay? I'm talking
just from Jack Smith.
Yeah,
that's right.
Meaning not just New York and not just, D.C. and maybe New Jersey a little bit in there, but we're talking a trifecta just from Jack. And then add in the Fonnie Willis. Add that in. The state charges, and then add in, Letitia James in New York, too.
Yeah.
The state charges. I'm telling you, this is interesting. In Westchester County, that's where another one of his crazy golf courses is.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one I think Junior likes to hang at. Anyway, they did a deep dive. Mimi Roca, the district attorney there,
yes,
she closed her investigation, but not because she didn't find anything, but because it was likely overlapping with Letitia James. So I think they folded it all into one because it had to do with, not paying enough taxes,
right,
and then lying about the value of the house for, insurance purposes. So, I mean, we're not done. It's going to be indictment after indictment after indictment after indictment after indictment.
It's the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Okay, look at that face right there. See that face right there? That's Bill Hader. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's Senator Bill Cassidy.
President Biden also said this morning
Come
that
on,
he
look
thinks
at that. Look at that face.
that he has the authority to lift the debt limit on his... Biden also said this morning that he thinks...
I'm sorry, but that's Bill Hader. That's why Barry is hard for me to watch, because every time I see Bill Hader, I think of Senator Bill Cassidy from Louisiana, and I just can't. I can't move. Anyway, so I want you all to read Robert Reich's little bit. You know, a lot of you have Timothy Snyder's, a book on tyranny. And when I first saw that book, that's what, Brother David was referring to. Timothy Snyder has a whole bunch of books. He's a Yale professor and teaches about creeping authoritarianism and fascism and the difference between nationalism, populism, fascism, and all these things. And it's a little pamphlet. I mean, I have it here somewhere. It's just a little, it's this big. I mean, come on. It's like that, maybe like that. You could read that. And as you're reading it, you'll go, oh my God, that's what we're living through. Oh my God, that sounds just like, Trump. Oh my God, that sounds like every speech he ever gave. I alone can fix it. I am your retribution. Like I am your warrior. I am your voice. The enemy of the people is the media. The media is the enemy of the people. Like that crap. That is total authoritarian stuff. And then he downshifts into total fascism, where he says he wants the military deployed to fight street crime. Street crime. Okay? He wants mandatory stop and frisk. He wants to deport people, separate women from their children, purge the federal workforce. See, this is Steve Bannon's new thing. And there are articles in the New York Times about it today, but I don't know how many people have subscriptions to the New York Times or don't or will read it because it's the New York Times and you have, some beef with them. I have no idea. So I'm trying to send you to places that actually study these movements, study these kinds of governments, and write down for you what is, what they do and what the result of the doing is for the people who toil and work and live and try to raise their kids in these countries that get taken over, democratic countries previously, and then get taken over by, a convicted felon who did time in jail and wrote, a manifesto while he was in jail about fascism and how that's the way to go because he alone could fix it. And you all had a common enemy. And that common enemy was going to see to your replacement, was going to see to your destruction. I mean, it's so familiar because it's already happened in multiple places around the world, Italy, Spain, most famously Germany. And everybody needs to understand that there is so much that's being done and said that is taken from those books, from the bad ones, from taking away your history so that you can, understand that nobody's trying to replace you. Saying you need to have retribution. You don't need to have retribution. He needs to have retribution because he broke the law and people are coming after him and he needs you to be human shields for him. I mean, it's just so unbelievable. And then making you fear violence if you hold him accountable for breaking the law, or that there's going to be use of force. He's going to deploy, the police and he's going to call upon the militia. Look, the whole reason why Stuart Rhodes was doing recon, I mean, genius that he is, he told Alex Jones that he had done recon, ahead of January 6th, and he was prepared. He had his weapons stashed across the Potomac. We all know the story, right? But the reason why he was doing it is because he felt he would be the new militia, that he would be Donald Trump's chosen militia, who, after Donald Trump disbanded the military or reassigned the military to operate in the United States where they can't because of posse comitatus, the people, always say, what is posse comitatus? That means the military can't, do law enforcement in the United States, can't do it. And that, once they created like an overthrow of the government, once they actually killed Mike Pence or once they actually killed Nancy Pelosi, and there was no line of succession and there was no, agreement about who the next president of the United States would be because nothing got certified that day. That was the whole goal, to stop the certification. Then Stuart Rhodes and the Oath Keepers, they would be the militia. That kind of talk, that kind of activity, that kind of feeling about your president, anointing you with the awesome powers of a militia to act against your own fellow citizens, that's not populism. That's not even authoritarianism. That's fascism. And they were saying it out loud on the airwaves. They were saying it out loud to anybody who would listen to them. They would say the things you shouldn't say in a democracy and plan for things that should never happen in a democracy because they're illegal and because they're violative of, the people who voted. They were saying it. And he was creating this fear of violence. He was saying that vested in the dictator would be the power to maintain social order after the violence, after the militia or the police, the Capitol Police were defeated, right? No one does that unless they're a fascist, okay? No one does that. Fascists galvanize this public rage against either real or imaginary threats. And they use that to create violence to maintain power. Okay. And that's what I want you to understand about the difference between populism and nationalism, authoritarianism, even, which is bad. We live in a representative democracy. Okay. None of those things are okay. None of those things are preferable. None of those things should be doable. None of those things should be talked about or as being preferred over, self-governance. But this is so far past populism, nationalism, authoritarianism. This is deep into fascist territory. And Donald Trump really does, say things like, "I alone can fix it. I am your retribution. I am your voice. I am," and people are sitting there, people of no particular party affiliation, independent people who don't really, pay attention to, much to do with, the daily comings and goings in campaigns. Or they're starting to notice, they're starting to understand that there is a threat, a real one, of losing democracy, of losing it all. And that could happen if we decide, and that's why Joe Biden puts it this way, that we are at an inflection point. An inflection point means a fork in the road, okay? It means you could go either way, right? And one way is okay, and the other way is perilous and dangerous. And we are at that inflection point, just like, some people got Adolf in the 30s and some people got FDR in the 30s, and it made all the difference who they got. Some people got, Franco. Some people got Mussolini. Some people got Adolf. Some people got FDR. And some people got Churchill. Okay. And it really made a difference. It made a huge difference in their trajectory and in their future and in their ability to maintain a democratic way of life, a free way of life. But it took a lot of sacrifice to keep people free. And now it could happen here because, look, if we elect ourselves a felon, a convicted felon or an indicted felon or somebody who's indicted for the Espionage Act violations for, taking, secrets and for disseminating secrets and for using them for whatever reason. I don't know if he's so transactional that he did it to, the stuff that had to do with Iran. I mean, Iran's natural enemy, I can't tell you this often enough, is Saudi Arabia. They despise each other, and it's a religious thing. Okay, it's Shia, Iran, versus Sunni, Saudi. And that right there makes them hate each other. So if Donald Trump saw an opportunity in Saudi Arabia by showing them or, saying to them, "I have war plans for Iran. I could show you war plans for Iran. You think what Jared told you, Bin Salman, you think MBS, what Jared gave you was important. Wait till you see what I have." Whatever it is. I don't know. And it didn't even have to go that far. Just the idea that you have somebody who is willing to take things, willing to dangle, always dangling the pardon, dangling. They're always danglers. Ew. Dictator. Dangling. Shaped like a potato. Dictator. Yeah, but I'm just saying, the idea that you could reelect or we could reelect or America might want to reelect a man who did those things. Ask yourself, what do you really think the outcome would look like? Would it be more freedom or less freedom for you personally? Would it be more freedom of speech or less freedom of speech? More freedom to travel or less freedom? You know what I mean? Have a weekend.